My name is Marlowe. Phillip Marlowe. Occupation, private detective.
Lady in the Lake from 1946 was a very entertaining Christmas-themed crime film that starred Robert Montgomery as the character Phillip Marlowe. With the unique twist of this film is that it is shown from his visual perspective. So even though he's the star of the film, we only actually see him briefly because we are seeing the events of the story unfold through his eyes. It's a very unique twist. Audrey Totter also starred in this very unique crime film. So the film opens up with a curious opening credit sequence with a choir singing Jingle Bells. It's interesting. So as mentioned, the film is told directly from the perspective of the character Phillip Marlowe. Now he opens the film talking right to us. So we're just smashing right through that fourth wall. And he challenges us to learn about the Lady of the Lake mystery and to see if we're able to solve it. The film then does a switch to his point of view in the past as we become Marlowe, and we're heading to the office of a publisher. So Marlowe has decided to try his hand at writing, and he's been called in to discuss a manuscript that he submitted. He goes in and he meets with publisher Adrienne Fromset, who's played by the gorgeous actress Audrey Totter. I caught her recently in the film Man in the Dark with Edmund O'Brien, and she talks to him about the details of this book that he submitted. And check out that crazy skull lighter that she has. So while listening to her, we see his eyes roam towards the lovely receptionist that walks by, actress Lila Leeds, and we follow his gaze as she leaves the room. And I point this out because this is an early example in the film of some of the camera technique that we see in the film. It's almost like an early version of like the Steadicam technology that we see today, you know, where the camera just sort of moves with the viewer in real life. And I thought this was a convincing job that this film does of really putting us into Marlowe's subjective perspective here. Well, we find out that Adrienne doesn't really want Marlowe's book, but rather they want to hire him for some detective work to track down the missing wife of the publisher. So apparently the publisher received a telegram from his wife saying that she was headed to Mexico to divorce him and she was going to marry some guy named Chris Lavery. But it's been 2 months, no word from her, and the telegram they think is a fake. And we soon meet the actual publisher, character Darius Kingsby, who's played by actor Leon Ames. And there may or may not be something going on with Adrienne and him. Honestly, as the story starts to unfold, it could be a little tricky to completely follow it all, but it's okay. Around this time, there's a clever sequence where we jump from the camera eye perspective back to third person as we see Marlowe in a mirror with Adrienne. The film will occasionally use this device to sort of remind us that we're seeing things through Marlowe's eyes.
Vain female, aren't you?
Please don't be so difficult to get along with.
Well, Marlowe takes the case, and he follows up on the lead to go visit with Chris Lavery, who is played by actor Dick Simmons. He's this happy, tanned fellow, and Marlowe asks him a bunch of questions about where Crystal Kingsby is. Questioning is all quick and sharp, but we see that this Lavery character isn't taking kindly to accusations being made about him, and he gives Marlowe, and we the viewers, a punch to the face. So Marlowe wakes up in a jail cell, and he's brought in to meet with a Lieutenant DeGarmo, who's played by actor Lloyd Nolan. I caught him a while ago in the film Texas Rangers with Fred McMurray. Well, he teases Marlowe about the letter that they found on him from the publisher, you know, about his book, before they bring him in to meet with Captain Kane, who's played by actor Tom Tully. I've seen in a bunch of other films like Rachel and the Stranger and The Turning Point. And, you know, they basically want to find out what's going on, and they want him to disclose names, and he refuses. So they let him go, but he leaves, and they're all on tense terms.
I've heard of people that don't like certain kinds of cops. It seems impossible, doesn't it?
So Marlowe learns that a woman's body had been recovered from a lake on which Kingsby, the publisher, owns a property. And we find out that Kingsby's caretaker, Mr. Chess, has been charged with the murder of his wife, Muriel. Now, Adrian thinks that Crystal is a real killer, as she and Muriel hated each other. Marlowe discovers that Muriel was an alias for a woman named Mildred Haviland, and that she was hiding from a tough cop who may or may not have been the character Degarmo that Marlowe met in jail. Are you following all of this so far? I have to admit, as I was watching the film, I couldn't completely follow all of the details, including the fact that there are events that were taking place out on a lake somewhere that we don't actually even see in the film. So all that to say is it's an enjoyable film, but the story, it could be a little confusing. But Marlowe returns to Lavery's place and doesn't find him there, but instead finds this rapidly chattering woman with a gun. It's Lavery's landlady, Mrs. Fallbrook, who's played by actress Jane Meadows. And she wants pay from him since apparently this Lavery guy is months behind. Marlowe plays like he's a debt collector and tells her to leave while he searches the house. And a note, by the way, I love the creepy music you hear as he's snooping around. It's almost like a haunting Christmas choir sound. There's a lot of that through this film, and it adds a nice element of creepiness to the detective work. And finally locates Lavery, dead in the shower, apparently from gunshot injuries. He also finds a handkerchief with the initials AF, and puts together that this might belong to Adrian Fromsit. So he goes to confront her, and she's at this private Christmas party hosted by the publisher Kingsby. He accuses her of murder and brings up the gun that was used to shoot Lavery, and she fires Marlowe on the spot. She's angry, and he leaves. But on the way out, by this Christmas tree, Kingsby hires him to find Crystal and to help protect her from murder charges. So Marlowe goes to return the gun, and at this point has a run-in with the police who are there. Now they're investigating the crime scene, and the coroner is showing up. Now, they go to inspect the crime scene, and Marlowe is alone with Degarmo. And it's here that the detective starts to suggest that he knew Muriel, and that he could be the man that she was hiding from. Degarmo gets angry, there's a scuffle with Marlowe, and the police try unsuccessfully to have the detective charged with Lavery's murder. Marlowe returns the slap, and they bring him downtown, and Captain Kane speaks with him. Seems about to release him when he gets a call from one of his kids at home, and it's actually kind of a sweet scene as this gruff captain goes from being angry to suddenly talking about St. Nicholas on the phone with his kids, because, I mean, the film is set around Christmas time.
Be Santa Claus again, huh? Well, Get out before I decide to go to work on you myself.
So Marlowe heads to meet with the character Eugene Grayson, who's played by actor Morris Ankrum, who I've seen before in films like In a Lonely Place with Humphrey Bogart. And he speaks with him and his wife. Now, both are tired, and they want to be left alone after so much police questioning. Now, when he learns that a policeman was involved, Marlowe begins to wonder if it was Crystal and not Muriel that was found in the lake, and that Muriel may be the murderer, and Degarmo may be covering for her. Again, confused? Yeah, so was I. But Marlowe leaves, but we see that he was tailed, and along with this comes more of that creepy choir music. Well, Marlowe's car gets knocked off the road, and then in the wreckage, he gets covered with booze. And it's actually a clever effect of this booze being poured onto him, or basically onto us, the camera, by the character Degarmo, who clearly doesn't like this guy. And we do see that eventually Marlowe came to, he slugs a guy trying to take his wallet, and then he staggers away from the crash as the police arrive. Now, the cops think that the unconscious guy at the car is Marlowe, so they leave. And Marlowe manages to make it to a phone, and he calls Adrian before passing out. So Adrian brings him back to her place to help nurse him back to health again. So she's fallen for the guy, they spend some time together, and around this time Kingsby arrives. Now he's looking for Marlowe, as there was a telegram from Crystal saying that she is in Bay City and she is in need of money. Now Marlowe suspects a trap, but he offers to bring the money himself to spring the trap. And with only about 10 minutes left in the film, I'll let you check out the exciting ending for yourself. So some closing thoughts about this film. I found out about this film while researching the film Dark Passage with Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall that I reviewed recently, and how that film used something called the camera eye technique, and how that had been earlier used in this film. So I was curious to check it out, especially when I heard it was a detective film. I mean, I can never get enough crime cinema. I will admit that hearing Lady in the Lake, I was initially thinking it was going to be a Camelot-themed film, but whoa, was I wrong. It's a crime film, but it's a Christmas-themed crime thriller with seasonal elements like Christmas parties, trees, and even holiday music heard throughout the film. I think this is the first film I've ever seen Robert Montgomery in, and I really thought he was great here, even though he's barely seen in the film. He not only acted, but this was also his directorial debut. And the direction I thought was great, the subjective camera technique as it was used here. It's convincing, and I like how, with the actor speaking directly to the camera, it feels almost more theatrical. It's not as much, smashing through that fourth wall, but instead it feels more like you're watching characters in a play. It's hard to explain exactly, but watch it, and maybe you'll see what I mean. And since Robert Montgomery was behind the camera through most of the film, to be honest, I felt that Audrey Totter actually got most of the screen time, and that's a good thing, as she's a great actress here. I do like watching her character transform from a somewhat shady Pulp Fiction editor to this affectionate character who really cares for Marlowe. And it's one that this cynical Marlowe character slowly grows to trust. She was really great in this film. The film was based on a novel by Raymond Chandler, and he wrote a screenplay based on his novel. Now, truthfully, as mentioned before, the story can be a little bit difficult to follow, but I really feel what you're watching this film for is more of that visual narrative, which is so unique, and it's so cool just to see the film through the eyes of the detective with everybody talking to you. And I also think it was very noteworthy, that atmospheric music that we hear in the film. The score was by David Snell and Maurice Goldman. This film came out after Humphrey Bogart had previously played the character Phillip Marlowe in the movie The Big Sleep. And if I'm honest with myself, it's hard to top Bogart as the character Phillip Marlowe. But I'll say this, I never realized how many guys have played this particular Phillip Marlowe character before. I mean, names like Robert Mitchum, James Garner, and so on. He's sort of like the James Bond of the time. And it might actually be fun on this channel to try to watch all of these and review them in the future. Now, a final note and a very slight spoiler. You see in the credits the actress Elaine Mort in the role of Crystal Kingsby. But the truth is, this person doesn't actually exist. It was a joke they put into the credits. It's basically a phonetic for the French Elle Mort, or she is dead. I guess no one told the Internet Movie Database, as they even have a page for her. Anyhow, that's The Lady in the Lake from 1946. It was an excellent Christmas-themed crime noir movie. It's worth checking out.